guys, how's it going so far? Okay, looks like we are just hitting you after the lunch session, but it was a very good panel just before this, and I'm sure that you will enjoy this session as well. My name is Vivek Khemani. I'm co-founder at Quantify, and it's a very proud moment for me to be hosting MTW with team. So thanks for being here. And we have today with us a senior leader from the industry, from AWS, Nitin Bhawankule. And we're going to be talking about some very interesting technology shifts and adoption-related matters in AI and generative AI. So, I hope that you're looking forward to how this session goes and what the messages here are for you. Okay, so Nitin, any opening remarks from you before we start the session? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about you before we start.
Okay, thanks a lot, Vivek. And good afternoon, everyone. Super excited to be here. I think when I look at the crowd, this is amazing. And I was talking to Vivek on the sidelines that this kind of crowd I had never expected in Bombay. But big shout out to the entire tech team. I don't know where is Harsh, where is Akrit, Vivek, everyone. Fantastic organization, and I'm sure everyone who's come here is finding this time the worth investing, and I'm sure every one of you are taking a lot of learnings from here. And I can only hope and wish that this ecosystem which we are trying to build in Bombay keeps on exponentially growing over the years, and we see this helping the entire startup ecosystem in Mumbai.
No, absolutely. And I think if this crowd has to be taken as the metric, I don't think there has to be any doubt about that, right? So with that, I mean, let me just kick off the session. And I think everybody would have heard all kind of statistics with respect to what's going on with the scaling and the adoption of AI around the world. In India, the statistics are that the AI market is likely to get to $30 billion by the end of 2030. But my question here, and I will launch my first question for you, Nitin, is India, I mean, is a very fast-growing market, but it is also a very unique market in its opportunity as well as in its challenges, right? So. And we all know that, I mean, AWS has played a very pivotal role in the transformation of, digital transformation of India. So, can you give us some insights around that?
Yeah, so AWS started off in India sometime in 2011. So it's close to 15 years of our journey here. And if you really see, it's been an integral part of the entire digital evolution in this country. We started off in 2011. Our first region, as we call it, the data center region, was set up in Bombay. Once again, Bombay is the first place where we invested. It was in 2016. And our second region started off in Hyderabad just about a year and a half back, so in early 2023. So if you honestly look at it, the kind of investment and the potential we've seen in this market is phenomenal. So till date, we've already invested close to $3.7 billion in this market. From a region perspective, setting up our own infrastructure. And we further committed close to $12.7 billion over the next 5 years, which is till 2030. So overall, AWS investments in India are close to $16.5 billion. So that's a massive investment. Of that $16.5 billion, I'm very proud to tell you that recently, just about a month back in Davos, we announced that close to $8.5 billion will go in BOM region, which is Mumbai, for further capacity expansion. And as you rightly said, we see a huge potential in this market, not only for the overall cloud adoption, but also from a perspective of AI, ML, and Gen AI. And that's the reason we are very bullish, and that's why we think we need to keep on, even before the demand, we should keep on investing so that when the customers like you and all the startups, all the people here want to work and develop and innovate, AWS is there to support you.
No, I mean, I could not have heard better news, I guess, that, close to $20 billion getting invested by AWS on AI in India, and almost half of that is attached to Mumbai. So I think
Just a point to note, our investment of close to $16.5 billion will add close to $25 billion to India's GDP and create close to 80,000 jobs annually, which is what is important because I think that's the real contribution to the Indian economy. And I think that is what we are very proud of.
no, that's amazing. That's very amazing to hear, Nitin. But one question I have, and this is especially with respect to generative AI, I think a lot of people here would be interested in knowing your perspective on, any new technology goes through a big adoption cycle, right? And generative AI is no different, right? So in your experience, if you would love to, tell the people here, what are some of the most important challenges that organizations face when they start on their journey of embracing generative AI?
Uh, it's been now close to 2 years of this entire Gen AI phenomenon. It has taken off. To be honest, I think generative AI in its primitive form has been existent for last more than 5, 6 years, but it caught attention after ChatGPT came in just about 2 years back. But honestly, I think over the last 24 months, and I recently attended a Gartner summit also, and I'll speak some of the points from that summit where they shared with us what are the key challenges. We've also seen this from an AWS perspective when we talk to multiple customers. I think the most important challenge today when you adopt Gen AI technology for any of your business use case is, can I see a return on investment? The first challenge, quantifiable ROI, is the first question. You talk to any CTO, any founder, he will say, Nitin, I'm ready to adopt it, but tell me how much top line will it add, or how much bottom line it will add, or how much productivity it will improve, or efficiency will improve. So quantifiable ROI is the first challenge. And if you do 100 proof of concept, I think not more than 5 or 6 really pass that test. That's the biggest challenge. That's the first challenge. The second challenge which we have seen over the especially last 12 months is that you have multiple foundation models, you have LLMs, but the biggest challenge is which model suits my industry, my specific industry use case. So if I'm a pharma company, or if I am a travel OTA player, which model will work for me? Because I cannot necessarily work with the generic model. That will be too costly. It might not necessarily serve the purpose which I want, and it will be too much time consuming, resource consuming. So I think that's the second challenge which we've seen. And the third one is, if I go into generic models, I have to feed in a lot of data. How do I retain control of my data? How do I maintain security of my data? And how do I ensure that while I'm doing all these experiments, I'm not exposing my systems, my applications to the external threats? And I think that's the top 3 challenges which any customer who's currently talking to us about anything to do with Gen AI, these challenges existed even for the AI ML, but they are getting aggravated by the Gen AI because there's a lot of resource requirement when you do any deployment around Gen AI. And I think the fundamental question is, am I making money out of it? I think that's the fundamental.
Yeah, I mean, and if I was to add to what you said, Nitin, and I know Quantify does a lot of work in partnership with AWS, bringing generative AI to the enterprise. And what we have found is that going from the proof of concept to the enterprise-wide adoption, a lot of the question is around the ROI.
Exactly.
But one very big unseen problem is about the change management.
Exactly.
Right? Because I think this technology is fundamentally changing how people are doing their business, but also how people are running their enterprise.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, it's all of us, it's all of you who will be dealing with this technology in your day-to-day lives. Whether you are building companies or you're building a software or you're solving a problem, but how do you change from the erstwhile way of doing things to the new way of doing things is a very human problem.
Yeah, and on that note, Vivek, let me turn the tables. You started off on a very good note. My question is, I don't know how many of this audience knows exactly what you do and your company does. Why don't you give a 2-minute introduction on Quantify and what exactly do you do? How do you make life easy for your customers?
Sure. I mean, Quantify is an engineering services company with a focus on AI and generative AI. We've been around for about 12, 13 years, and some of our team members must be in the audience here. And what we do is really help the large enterprises around the world embrace AI technology on large platforms like AWS. So we work for banks and insurance companies, media companies, gaming companies, and we help them use AI for their business and for their people, for their customers and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I mean, you kind of spoke about some of the challenges that organizations have, right? I want to touch upon some of the interesting developments and progress that AWS has been making, in the front of generative AI, especially with Bedrock and Tranium. So, what's the sort of vision with respect to these? What's your broader vision, right? How do you see the sort of enterprise leveraging these products and platforms that are coming out from the AWS table?
Got it. So, from an AWS perspective, we always believe that there's not one solution to all the problems in the world. And we firmly believe that we should give the customers, our customers, the choice of what they think is right for their business. From that perspective, we've kind of three layers. We have three layers of our generative AI stack, as we call it. The first is the infrastructure layer, where obviously there are the NVIDIA GPUs which come in. I'm not going to deny that. But what we also realize is the first challenge is ROI. And that's where we've introduced our own chips, the Tranium chips, which are used for our training purpose, and the Inferentia chips, which are used for inferencing. So that's the first level where we've introduced our own chips, because we think that's going to, and they perform at least 30 to 40% better ROI. So that's the first layer, the foundational layer. The second is what we call as our, if I can call that word, as a marketplace, which is Bedrock, where it allows you a choice of multiple models, right from the Anthropic models to the Meta models to our own models. So that's the second layer which is we operate on. And the third one is obviously our own applications, like what we can call as Amazon Q or Amazon Q for developers or for businesses. So those are the three layers. That's the way we operate on our entire GenAI stack. Coming to the use cases, what we've seen over the last 6 to 12 months, there have been multiple use cases, be it in e-commerce, be it in fintech. Let me give you two classic examples, which we are really proud of, which have been built on our own platform, using our own tech stack. One is in Bombay. I don't know if anyone from Nykaa is there. Our own beauty company, e-commerce startup. They have used our generative AI technology to enrich their catalog. So I'll just give you a layman language of how they've done it. So when any new product is launched or on their platform, let's say a lipstick, generally it would come from the supplier to them. Their Nykaa's team would manually go through the entire contents of what is there, what are the benefits of it, and then publish it on their platform. Our tools are reducing that and making it efficient by automatically reading that content and bring it. So the catalog enrichment is done literally in, I can't put the number to that, but phenomenally efficient. That's the way Nykaa is using it. There's a second customer I can talk about, is it's in the fintech space, CreditBee. They get close to 7,000 emails on a daily basis. Now, it can be an email related to customer saying, what's my next EMI? Where am I defaulting? What's the amount I'm eligible for? What we've done is using our own technology on GenAI. We've been able to say, okay, how can we help? Because normally the manual agents would do this. The agents would sort the email and then answer it. We put in our own technology there, LLMs, and then said, okay, how do we make it efficient? And that has crashed the time where the customer can be responded to immediately, one, and also in multiple languages like Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and Kannada. So those are two classic examples of which we are very proud of. Obviously, there are multiple other examples, but in the interest of time, let me give you those two examples.
I mean, this is absolutely fantastic, Nitin. And from everything that you have said so far, what I can say, you know, is for people to take away is that the AI technology is really not about building the foundation of your business. That, of course, it helps you to do, but it is really about touching your customers, right? And making, uh, changing how they experience your products, how they experience their interactions with you, and how do they make decisions about being a lifer for you as a customer,
Exactly.
right? And I think that is just absolutely amazing, because I think no other technology before this has really changed the customer experience in such a significant way.
Exactly. And Vivek, you talked about multiple industries with which you work. Any specific Gen AI use case which you think you can
Yeah, I mean, one
share?
very interesting generative AI use case that we have worked on is for an supplemental insurance provider, right, where they have been able to bring down their claims processing time by almost 7-8 times, 7-8x, because with generative AI you are kind of significantly enhancing what robotic process automation could have done, right? And with cognitive capabilities, with auto learning capabilities, scaling capabilities, and of course agentic capabilities, you are able to deliver massive automations. And as a customer, I mean, if I am an insurance customer, my experience of dealing with the insurance provider can completely transform, right? So I think this is, again, an example that we are very proud of. So where we are seeing AI make a real impact on, how industries are serving their customers better.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So, okay, I think, I mean, you have been on the floor since a few hours. I have seen you, and you probably would have met a bunch of people who are either already entrepreneurs or wanting to become entrepreneurs. There are, several startups are here, right? What would be lovely is if you can kind of tell them about how AWS is supporting the startup ecosystem in this country.
AWS has been with the startup ecosystem since 2011 in India. And there are multiple ways we help, but let me give you the 5 key pointers. And anyone who's in the startup ecosystem here, please make a note of it. And if you haven't worked with us, we have a lot of people from AWS here who are here. And if not, you can reach out to me, not a problem at all. There are close to 150,000 registered startups in India at this point of time, and more than 100 unicorns. All of us are aware of the unicorns. We don't need to. We have 5 value props for the startup ecosystem. The first one is the overall tech stack. Obviously, all of you are working on multiple cloud platforms, AWS being the leading one. We are proud to say that more than 75% of the startups who start in India start off on AWS. So obviously, our tech stack is there. That's the first thing. The second is business and tech support. I think that's very crucial for anyone who's starting a new startup. From that perspective, we are there to enable you, your team, and your entire tech team. The third one is access to educational information. Many a times, that is what a startup needs. Because most of the times when you start up, you are 1 or 2 or 5-member team. What you need is a lot of information. And that is where our team of startup, we have a startup BD team which steps in and says, okay, we are helping you in terms of information. The fourth one is go to market. Now, when you launch a product as a startup, many a times you have access to a particular market. You are based out of Bombay, so you know you have contacts in Bombay, for example. I'm just taking India example. But you need help to take it to Bangalore. You need help to take it to Delhi. We have a team which will help you go to the market. But the most important thing is our own marketplace. If you have a product which you think we can sell to multiple customers across different parts of the world, we help you list your product on the marketplace. And we have our industry experts who will help you connect with the right set of your customer segment in different markets across the world. So that's a very critical, because it will help you scale your own business. So besides the technology part, we also bring in the business help, which is helping you scale your business. And the last part, which obviously most of you are aware, is the Credit Activate program, which we obviously help all the startups with. That's available. By the way, all these 5 pillars are available not only for regular startups, but also for the Gen AI startups. We have different credit programs and far more attractive credit programs for the Gen AI startups. So if you are in any of the startup world and you want any help from AWS, please feel free to reach out to us. We have a lot of team members sitting here, but if you do not know, you can write to me. My email address is as simple as nkb@amazon.com. More than happy to help you out and more than happy to help anyone who's a part of the entire team ecosystem.
No, that's awesome. And I do want to say that I have been witness to AWS's amazing support to the startup ecosystem in India on two counts. One is, I think you will end up meeting one of the 70% of the startups who actually started their journey on AWS. So there's a good chance that they will tell you that we've sort of grown now, but when we started our journey, we started on AWS. So I think you've done phenomenal there. And the second important part I want to say is this whole event here, right? I mean, AWS chose to provide their support to this event, which is very, very startup ecosystem focused.
So Vivek, just to add to this, the reason why we are here is because we love to work with anything which accelerates startup and innovation. Every accelerator program, you will definitely see AWS being present there because we believe that this ecosystem thrives on all the services we provide, the tech stack which we help, and we are pretty confident that 90% of the developers in India work on us. So we are very happy to collaborate and help with you and work with you to scale this business.
Nitin, just one last question I have before we close the session is for the developers, right? How do you see life changing for them? How do you see both at Amazon, at AWS internally, as well as, what advice would you have for a whole lot of engineers sitting in front of us about what's future for them?
I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell you what I personally have seen. I'm pretty old from that perspective. The amount of changes we've seen in the my professional life, okay, I'll give you a classic example. I started my professional life in 1990s, okay, close to 30 years. There was no AWS. I'll tell you the names of the companies I worked for before this, and you will be amazed. There was no AWS. Cloud did not exist when I started out of my college. Before this, I used to work for Disney Hotstar. OTT platforms did not exist when I started out of my college. Prior to Disney Hotstar, I was with Google. Search engine did not exist when I passed out of college. And prior to that, I worked in Motorola mobile phones. Mobile phones did not exist when I passed out of college. So think of it, that when I passed out of college, the 4 companies I worked for did not even exist. So today, if you are at that stage of your career where you are in your 20s, understand that 10 years down the line, you might be working in a technology which does not exist today. Honestly. And I think that is the most important thing for all of us to remember, that if you are not continuously evolving and innovating yourself in your career, you will be obsolete. If I didn't learn cloud at the age of 45 or 50, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And that is what is the most important thing for everyone who's sitting here, be it an engineer, be it an MBA, be it whatever kind of role you're doing. Learn every day, otherwise you will be obsolete. And that's the only message I have.
Well, I mean, that needs a round of applause. Okay, but I must say that you don't look like you've been in the industry for 30 years. But, I want to, I just want to say a few things before we close the session that, I think, we've been in the industry as Quantify for about 13 years, and I think the journey that we have seen around AI is that it's gone from the question of why AI to the question of how to implement AI to the question of how to scale AI, right? So for businesses, it is no longer about having a competitive advantage, but it is about it being a business imperative that you have generative AI in every important aspect of your business value chain. And for developers, I cannot say it better than how Nitin has said. So I will actually stop here.
I have just one point, and it reminded me of the Gartner summit I attended. How many of you are working on-prem? One, two, so maybe 5%, best case? Best case. So 95% of you are working on cloud. So the Gartner statement said the decade of cloud first has got over. Because all of us started off when we were, should I be on-prem or should I be on cloud? He said cloud is now taken for granted. He said the decade of AI first is starting. So if you are not AI driven as a business, you are no longer innovating. So it's no longer cloud first, it has to be AI first. That's what the statement was.
No, absolutely, and I think that's what we are all witnessing here. And now I'm just going to switch hats from being a host on this panel to being part of team. And I want to say that a lot is happening on this show floor that you should all be engaging with. I mean, there are stories being told by founders directly one-on-one, completely unplugged. There are master classes being held. I believe AWS is holding a master class for you all. There is a job fair that's running. There are people who are showing their products, and a whole lot of founders that are out here completely available to having interactions with you all, right? So, hopefully, you enjoyed the session. I totally enjoyed the session. It was great meeting you, Nitin, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for your, valuable insights. And for everybody here, continue to enjoy the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Limit.